So Harry, let's just do a quick little breakdown or rundown. Which year?
2001.
2001, and you were 18 years old at the time.
Yeah. We're on.
Yep. And there you were as an electrician, running your business, and a successful business, I might add. More than $300,000 a year.
Yep.
You and Helen working very hard there, and the kids go to bed, and then you do the books, and we worked out, I think it was 76 hours or something.
Yeah, about 70 hours a week.
Something like that.
Yep.
But then after you paid everybody else, including the two guys you got on the road, how much did you end up with?
About 70 grand a year.
Yeah, but that was between both of you.
Yep.
So a bit under 35,000 each or something.
Yep.
And that was counted as a success story. And within a year, Harry brought that business up to almost $1 million and halved the time. In the same 12 months, he did 12 transactions and netted over $1 million. So 12 transactions in real estate, bang, 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 bang. So I think that deserves a clap. And he went on, obviously did the IPW program and met people in that program that you're still with today, your business partners.
Absolutely.
Who was then a banker or ex-banker at the time.
Yep.
And Anton's a beautiful man, got married in all these times, because that's 10 years now.
Yeah.
And done 8 million or something, I've lost count how much, but a lot, and also given away that much money as well with transactions, joint ventures,
Yep.
other things, and built an organisation now that does property advice and bills and sells and does pretty well almost every aspect of real estate, including lending, so pretty amazing story. So that's sort of going, right? And in that time, your young kids grew up, Will and Penny.
They did.
We used to bring them to the Abundance program, and we used to, in the Born Rich, and have them stash in the shelves.
Yep.
In the little storeroom. They used to sleep in the shelf, because they're only this big, little things. And they've grown up, and of course Will now is what, 16? Yeah. And I understand on Facebook he has a girlfriend.
We were just sharing that we were sitting at home, I think it was last night, and we were just chatting about something we were going to go to next weekend, and we asked him if he'd like to bring his girlfriend along. And he said, well, next Saturday that would be great, because he said that's our 1 month anniversary.
Wow, it's lasted so long.
That's big time.
Big time.
It's made the grade. Yeah.
And Penn used to go on stage and do little dances and songs and things like that.
Yep.
And amazing things. These guys have grown up. And went off to Disneyland with our kids, and there's been a lot of things we've done.
And the jacket there's from Disneyland.
That's the birthday one.
That's the birthday one.
I remember making a donation to that. And you wear it with pride.
Absolutely.
So, Harry, in this last 12 months, it's a tough market, difficult market, great opportunities.
Yep.
So, what's your feedback? What's going on?
It's just been a real interesting market. The market's been all over the place, and in fact, I had a meeting this morning with our bank manager, and I said to him, "What do you see, moving forward?"
He was worried about his job, was he?
Yeah, absolutely. He's with the NAB, and I just asked him what are they seeing and what's their thoughts moving forward. And he said to me, well, we think the growth will be slow. And I said, well, the fact that you've put growth in that sentence, to me, that's a brave statement. Brave statement. And I said, we'll settle for slow growth. And
very happy with that.
Yeah. So look, it's been very interesting. And having said that, we started a transaction. Well, we're in it at the moment that we have under option, and it's in council right now for 15 townhouses. It's just outside Brisbane. It has, at the moment, the feasibility showing over the 15 townhouses about 1.2, 1.3 million profit.
That's good.
And that's all because of the way it was secured.
Option, no costs or...
It was on the market for 4 years. And came on, I think it was at about 1.5 mil they were asking for the site. We secured it for 880 under option for 12 months.
So let's just get a couple of numbers down, because they're pretty good, big numbers, Harry. So originally, 4 years ago, it was on the market for how much?
For about 1.5 mil.
Okay, 1.5 mil, and you secured it.
I didn't see it 4 years ago, I'm not 100% sure on that number, but it was about that.
That's the sort of stuff they talk about.
Yeah.
4 years ago, and you got it for 800.
887.
887. Okay.
Yep.
And is that a little different? Yeah. And it's got 15 units, or townhouses.
Yeah, when we saw it, it was being marketed as you could put 4 homes on it.
Right.
That's when we saw it, they said you could get 4 homes on it.
That's good.
We said, oh, that's good. Yeah, we'll have a look at that. And we did.
And you took an option for how long, Harry?
We started in February of this year with a 16-week due diligence period, and then the balance of 12 months under option. So the total period was 12 months. The first 16 weeks was under due diligence and then going into an option period.
Okay. And what was the option fee?
1%, so $8,870.
Very good.
Paid after the 16-week due diligence period.
Perfect. So due D. Now, this is about a bit under 60,000 a site. And just if you, I know you'd know these numbers, Harry, but the construction roughly?
They're 135 square metre townhouses at about $1,000 a square metre.
So let's call it 140 grand.
Yep.
Plus, let's call it 200,000.
Yep.
And what's the retail?
Mid-4s. 450s, somewhere there.
Okay.
Depends on
what you do.
Yeah, depends on which ones we finish up with.
So that's our cost, that's our real cost, that's the land component, that's we're up to there, and that's before we get to the fees, and there's lots of other bits and pieces and real estate costs and stuff like that. But there's a good margin in that.
Yep.
And you think there's about $1.1 million?
About 1.2. Yeah, 1.2 mil.
And when Harry does these, he always does them conservatively. He does this conservatively. He does his costs up, everything like that.
There'll be more in it than that. However, this is probably close to 100 a site, and there's 15, so it's about 1.5 mil, and I'm bringing it all back down and saying it's 1.2 mil instead of 1.5 mil in profit.
Sure. But you can see how if you paid that, how that would come off that. You see you're mucking around with 400,000 or less, probably 300, there's just nothing in it. In other words, if you paid, the money's in the purchase of the land, that's where the profit is, the negotiation down. And Harry, I don't want to get stuck too much on this transaction, but who's learning something here? Who's learning some things? Because we've got a couple of questions here about negotiation.
Yep.
What do you think, if you could talk about that? What do you reckon? What's the key to that for you? Because you look at lots of things.
Yep. On the negotiation with that, to me, once we've looked at it, we've got to go into our negotiation with certainty. We've got to go into it having done our numbers, understanding exactly what we can afford to pay, and also understanding where the vendor's at. Totally clear on where the vendor's up to.
And where was the vendor up to?
On this one, it was 6 owners, 2 properties next door to each other.
Right.
2 owners, 2 or 3 owned one property, and then all 6 owned the neighbouring property.
So 2 properties like this.
Yep.
And then there's 6 people own this one.
Yeah.
All having an argument with each other.
Yeah, and then 3 of the 6 own that one.
3 of these own here.
Yeah.
Right. Oh dear. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
and how much did they pay for them?
I think they got it left to them. I think it was a bit of a
one of those things.
Deceased, and one was owned, and it was a bit of a mess.
Anyway,
it was great.
But it would have been interesting to have 6 people in the room, or 7 or 8 or something, having a conversation. Of course, to bring the wives in, that would be really good.
Oh yeah, it was good fun. So our offer went in, and
they all had a laugh about that.
Yeah, they just came back and said no. And I've got one exactly the same. We put an offer in today, amended offer today. We had a meeting with an agent and a vendor, also in the Brisbane area, and we had this meeting 2 weeks ago on Skype with an agent and a vendor, and myself and Anton on another computer. So we're all just hooked up on Skype and had this negotiation taking place. And the offer that went in 2 weeks ago on this property was for $650,000, and he said no. And the amended offer that went in today was for $650,000 2 weeks later, and we believe that today he'll take it. And
because this is the reality in the marketplace. This is probably top money for this transaction, and there's a great deal of shortage of money out there to even do it, but it's whether they're willing to come to that. And there are many transactions that Harry would make offers that don't go on. The fisherman, how many fish go by for the fisherman out of 100? 99. And so I think you did once a calculation. I think you did 2,500 offers or something or other, or 3,000 offers or something, and we worked it out that it was 32 or something transactions.
Yeah, it was about 1 in 100.
This is written offers, so the numbers still stack up, you know, and sometimes you get a run and you get 2 or 3 and, you know, but people give it a go for 3 or 4 matters and can't get it, and then they go, it doesn't work, where it is actually the other way. Okay, and what else would you want to say about this? Because it's got great value, this conversation, Harry.
Oh, absolutely. It is, as you mentioned here, it is what's taking place to get from there to there. That does take time. It is being conscious of your numbers. When they told us 4 homes could be built on that, we did a feasibility based on 4 homes, and that's where this number came from. The 4 homes is close at that
50,
number.
Yeah, like 200,000.
200,000 for a block of land for a house in that location, that works.
So it would have been just like 4 homes on this site like that?
Yep.
Something like that?
Yep. And so you'd build those, you know, probably 250, so it's 200 for your land, 250 for the house, and the houses itself are about 600 odd, 650, that sort of number. So it's close on 4 homes. We felt conservatively that we would definitely get 13 townhouses approved on that. We thought,
you got the cars buried? Are they underground?
no.
So the surface? Surface?
No. Yeah. Well,
Wow.
Yeah.
So there must be big blocks of land.
Yeah, the reason why there was this big concern here was that the back corner of the block supposedly is in a flood zone, and
Couldn't build on it.
yeah,
So they said.
yeah, pretty
So
much.
you pumped the land up? Or
Absolutely.
you moved the river?
Just lifted the back homes, just
Yeah. Who would like to know what he did there? Anyone interested? Because this is a really good type of story where people say you can't do something, and Harry's got a word for if you can't, we must.
absolutely.
There was a guy going by, you will remember, Ross, he, who was it, Paul and
Deb.
Paul and Deb? They're driving along, they used to go and buy things on the way on holidays. Every time they go for a drive, they come back with another property. And on the way up to coming to, I think they were going to Cairns. And he can't help himself because he's driving along and he sees this for sale sign. So he pulls up. It's in the back of nowhere. And the guy says, oh, is it for sale? He says, yep, it's for sale. How much was that? Like $30,000 or something stupid, wasn't it, Harry?
In the 20s, I think you paid 28 or 20.
Yeah, I think he bought it for 18.
Less, yeah.
Anyway, but you can't build on it because it's flood affected. Right. And it's been for sale for like 40 years. It's on the corner. So we went and had a look and said, so you can't build on it? I said, yep, and there's got a horse on it and a stable. That's all. Oh, you'd like that. And it's a big block of land. So he said, well, if you can't build on it, it's not worth very much, is it? And he said, no, that's why it's for $30,000. So he makes an offer, I think it was 18, and he gets it for 18 and buys it. Because he went and saw the council and says, you can't build on it. He says, well, is it you can't build on it or you're not allowed to build on it? He says, oh, you can build on it, you're just not allowed to. He said, why is that? Well, it's flood affected. He said, well, what if we put the house up? Oh, you could build that. So if I put the house up, I can build on it. Yep, good. That's what he did. But you know when you're in an area long enough and you don't know, you've been there for so long and your mother told you couldn't build on it because it's flood affected, and he told the guy at the shop you can't build on it, and the whole town knows you can't build on it, so they tell everyone. Even the agent believed it. I know it's a staggering piece of information, but if you actually raised the house that you could build on it, he never built on it, he just sold it. I think, what was it, 100 grand or something? Something.
He sold it?
Yeah. He didn't build on it.
70 something?
Okay.
70 something?
Let's call it, say it's 70, and he's paid, say 20, you know, he just made 50 on his way up. He's on a holiday. Right? But you know how you can have rose-coloured glasses? And Roy talks about tax-coloured ones? And these are profit-coloured glasses. This is the glasses looking for opportunities that others aren't seeing. So Harry's going to tell you a story here about something that someone hasn't seen, because this is flood affected.
Yep. So what we've done, exactly what you've said, is that we've got this area, I think it sort of runs across here. Actually, it's a bit more exaggerated than that. I think it's up like this, that supposedly you can't build on. And they give you what's called an RL, which is a level that your floor level must be at. So what we did, and that's looking at it on a section and that's looking at it on plan, is we've designed a driveway, as you would, just straight down the middle of the site, and you've got townhouses being built
basically there.
Right through there, which is on this side, which, yep, everyone's happy you can build that. However, we've also got townhouses going
on stilts
right through that side. And also what council said, we had a pre-DA meeting with them during the due diligence period, and they said, well, you can't build on this side because you can't fill the block. If you were to fill this much land, it doesn't comply with our policies, you can't fill the block. So, okay. So what we did with this road, we've just put piers on here. We're going to put piers on there, that's what we've designed. So that's actually as you come through here.
It's raised.
Yeah, that's on piers, and your road just comes through here, which will be a suspended type construction, which for us is going to be cheaper anyway. And then the homes that go on through here will literally just come straight out.
Off the road.
Off the road. So the cars can literally drive in and just straight in that way. And they'll just drive straight into their carports.
So it's just like a slab here. It's like a McDonald's.
Pretty much.
In the driveway.
Pretty much.
So here's
drive through, that's the one.
Yeah. Drive through.
Yep.
And so the townhouses sit up here.
Yep.
And townhouses sit up here.
Yep.
And from a look down, what you're seeing is a solid, like you don't go under there.
That's right.
There's a raging river.
Yeah, exactly. They did tell us that we had to have this so it was enclosed and all that stuff, and so we will, and then you'll just have gates through it if you want to use it for storage, and then there's decks off the back here, and then stairs that get you down into the yard. The yard's actually a little bit bigger than that. So you've got a yard, and then you just got stairs that come down here into the yards of each of these that continue on like that. And
they act as floodgates, really.
Absolutely.
and locks, you can move your furniture up and down.
Well, the interesting point is the floods that they just had in Brisbane
didn't affect it.
Didn't go anywhere near it.
Yeah.
So if there wasn't going to flood in that one,
sure,
I think we'll be okay.
So that I was wondering why there was such a margin, and obviously there's extra cost in the slab, but when you think about it, it's really not that much more, Harry, is it? Because all you got is some piering down here, you know, that, right?
Yep.
Because that slab you would have poured anyway.
That's exactly right.
And you're just making it a little thicker with a bit more steel in it.
Yep.
And this one here the same. So you've inbuilt that and spread it over the course of all those extra properties.
We had $650,000 to do it with.
Play with, yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, yeah. So
that's going to cost us about $10,000 to $15,000 a dwelling
per unit, yeah.
To put in.
Sure. So even at 20,000, or it's only half of them.
It's only half the units.
So even at 20,000 by 7.5 or whatever it is, $160,000 worth of slabs and things.
Yeah.
But you can think out of the box. So this is that kind of too difficult. Opportunities, are looking there with difficult times. Well done, Harry. That's fantastic.
It's good fun.
So you're just not a pretty face. So who came with that idea?
Who came up with this idea?
Yeah.
Michael. You know Michael? Actually, Michael came up with that.
Oh, Michael did. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was Kelly and Kelly and the two Kellys, yes?
Yeah. Kelly's both Kellys and that.
Yeah,
Michael came up with that idea of that construction process.
Fantastic.
Yep.
So, and that's where a team comes in. Where you got people, Harry with all his experience and all his knowledge, and a guy who basically, well, he's been doing it for a couple of years, but he's not that experienced really.
Not in the development side, no.
And he's come up with an idea and said, I'm nearly there, Giuseppe. He come up with an idea and says, hey, why don't we do this? And Harry says, let's have a look at that.
Yep.
I can tell you, Harry did the same thing. I've got a site of my own, remember the Mossman one? And I lived in it for I don't know how many years. And Harry came up with a plan. That's good. And we joint ventured that transaction, which I wouldn't have come up with that. I was too close to the transaction.
We made $800,000 in that transaction.
That was good. Yeah, and I'm very grateful for that. That was because that wouldn't have happened without Harry.
You got any more like that?
Matter of fact, I have, Harry. I might tell you about this newest one we just got, which is very interesting.
Good.
$8.9 million worth of interesting, actually. Anyway, that's a fantastic story.
Yep.
So we've got to hang it up here. So we've got a microphone right in front there, just if you want to just take it and you just
sure.
It's good.
Harry, with the negotiations, obviously, did you mention at all about the 15 apartments, or you just kept on the streamline of the 4 homes that they originally?
No, there's too many here. They weren't interested in what we wanted to do. In the negotiation, what they're interested in is what's in it for me. So they're really not.
So how did you come down from 1.5 to 88.7? That's nearly half.
Well, he said that it was like 4 houses, and he took his option for 12 months. During the course of the 12 months, usually in the first month or two, he's worked out that it's going to be 15 townhouses. He's already got his option.
Yep.
Sure, but so you just kept on the discussion in relation to the full homes and That's how you managed
The
to...
4 homes.
4 homes, yeah.
Yeah. We just did our feasibilities and
On
looked
what
at
he said.
what we could do, and there's the feasibility. And then during our due diligence period, worked out that hang on a sec, we can do a whole lot more here. And having the pre-DA meetings with councils really worked in this particular case. They told us they felt there was going to be a challenge here. They gave us another couple of things that they thought we'd need to deal with, and we did. And the rest has been a fairly smooth process. So.
And it would have worked on the 4, I guess, Harry?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, otherwise we wouldn't have done it.
Yeah. So he would. This is his fallback position. He would have had 4. What he's looked at as a better position.
Yep.
On the 4, you would have made 500,000 or something, or 600 or something.
Yeah, about 6, I think.
So, 1.2 is a bit better than 6. So go that way. Why not?
Does the option rest with the bank or with the...
The option rests with the bank. No, the option rests with Harry and his team.
Can you cover that a little bit on quote?
Okay, we'll just get a microphone so we can do this. Sorry, if we can just pass on so we can get it on tape because we're recording that. So,
I guess one of my questions behind the option was you talked about doing an initial feasibility study and then an option beyond that. So,
Yep.
can you go over perhaps a little bit of an idea of what that option actually gave you?
Yep, that option that we entered into, which was a call option, gave me the right and not the obligation to buy the property at the end of my option period. So that's what it gives us. Now, then the vendor says, well, hang on, what about if you walk away? Well, I may, and in the meantime, in the 12 months, I've put a lot of time, a lot of money into the planning, and we're happy, in our cases, we're generally happy to allow the vendor to keep any of the design that we do, and the plans and the engineering and all that stuff, which is only going to benefit them if they want to sell to someone else. Yeah. However, let's be really clear that if I'm spending the sort of money we're going to get this approved,
not
going to walk away lightly.
So they've got $8,870 if he does walk away, and he's got this 16 weeks with due diligence. You want to talk about that, Harry? Because that's a very important thing. If you heard what he said before the option fee we had 16 weeks. Now due diligence is to really get it done. So he would have had some consideration, $100 or $1,000 or something.
On the due diligence?
Yeah.
No, we didn't actually pay anything for that.
Okay, well that's good.
We just at the end of 16
the agreement.
Weeks, yeah. The agreement was an $8,800 fee to enter the agreement, which is payable after 16 weeks, on the basis that we say yes, we're going to proceed.
And otherwise, they're locked away from negotiating with anyone else during that period.
For 16 weeks.
And then further 12 months.
Yep.
From then on, yeah.
Yeah, and then from there we kept going. And like I said, we now... And we also have a clause within that agreement that gives us the right to nominate someone else to complete this contract rather than us. So... And
pass it on.
And right now we're looking at that as a possibility, and we believe there's probably about half of this margin we could sell our option for.
So that's important. So he's saying let's be really conservative. Let's just say 500,000, really conservative number.
Yep.
That what he spent is this much money as an option fee, and obviously a lot of his time and expertise and stuff, and got engineers involved and DAs and people and stuff. 20 grand, 30 grand, something like that.
The bottom line on these is that we've got 15 approved, and we've had 3 agents' appraisals on what this site's worth. Our minimum is 95k, going up to 105k per site. So it's that times 15. So our site is worth about $1.5 million now, and it owes us $887 plus our cost to date.
So let's just stop there a second so we're all clear what he just said. Do you see how this number here was 60,000 per site? All I did was divide the 15 into that. That gave the price, and what Harry's now saying, it's worth between 95 to 105, let's call it 100 by 15, that's how he gets the 1.5, he's paying that. So here it is again, securing something, selling the piece of paper, selling the right to do something, because Harry's not so silly as to go and build anything. We'll have to go and, borrow money and do all that and take risks and worry. What he wants to do is sell from here to here and pick up the difference, which is going to be a minimum, maybe 600, but somewhere minimum 500,000 for this much investment plus other risks and stuff. Now he's still at risk because he may not pull this off or may not get the buyer, or the council might say no, or the council's had their hand in the till, or they go into liquidation, a whole range of things. However, You see, like, it's like a bet, you know, I'm betting this to get that. Who would like to bet, say, this transaction, call it 10,000, and how much for DAs and stuff? 20, 30,000, what would you say?
A little bit more, so I think it's close to 50.
50,
yeah.
okay. So call it 60 in total.
Yep.
Who'd like to bet $60,000, that's, say, 6 people with 10,000 each, to benefit on maybe $600,000 or $100,000 as an outcome? If you could make that, who'd be interested in that game? I'm just curious. And just look around the room, it's pretty most people in the game, and what that says is that there's money, always is. When the transaction is good enough, the money shows up very quickly. You don't need any money, you just need better ideas. Now, that's a team from OneLife, people who are with OneLife and currently with OneLife, and Harry and stuff who are looking at that transaction. And it's right in the middle game, but it's looking pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, we could spend a lot of time on that, you know, how did you do that and how did you do this? Because it could go on for days, couldn't it, Harry?
Absolutely.
And what's missing for a lot of people, who's done IPW here? Okay, hands nice and high. Okay. Now, you'll find a lot of questions will come from people who haven't done that, and mainly because, how did you get the option document? What did you do here? You know, it's because that's what that's about.
Yeah.
And that's a fairly important, and we're upgrading that program now. It's called Quantum Property, which is, it's an IPW increase, if you like, yeah. So, so the questions that you're thinking, you know, are going to be involved in that. But you please go ahead and ask the question, because I know you're keen to do it. Let's get it. Yep. Lindsay?
Just as a matter of interest, because we want to be getting into this as part of the process, how often would you go through the due diligence and get the DA approved and have trouble finding someone to actually take on that development afterwards?
You're thinking that too. You're nodding on that question. It's a good question, isn't it, Ben?
Yeah, very good question.
See what I mean about the questions? Can we get him to ask a better question, Harry? Would that be better?
We could give that a shot.
We can give that a shot. Can you hear the question? There's a presumption that there would be ever one. Ever. I can't actually think of one.
Okay.
Ever. But I'm sure if I was with you, there would be some. Because there's a thing we do which is called, it's called projection. Now, it's good to ask, is there landmines here? Is there landmines? You know, you ask that question. In Afghanistan, that's a very good question to ask. In a lot of countries, actually. But you wouldn't normally ask it in America, perhaps, or you know, even in Australia. But if you came from there, from Afghanistan, and you kept saying, is there landmines? I bet you there's landmines here. I'm not going out. You're probably right. And you'd probably get run over or something, or you'd fall down a cliff, or something would happen. And I know it's harsh to even speak this way, but projection's very important. And you'll notice if you listen to what happened, is there a margin for the person who's doing this transaction?
Yeah.
Yeah. He makes 500,000 or 600,000, and they make the same. If you're a builder and you're presented with this transaction, you say, would you like to do this? And your risk is pretty minimal anyway, because the person, worst case is they say no, but there's lots of builders. And it's only 15 townhouses, it's not like, 180, you know. And not that, Lindsay, you should be doing these transactions, or you, Ben. When do we do transactions like this?
After a while.
What's a while? How many we're supposed to do little flicks, very, just not even renos, but makeovers? How many of those we got to do first?
1 or 2.
How many?
3 to 5?
3 to 5's correct. But knowing you, 1 or 2. But at least more than 2, but 5 would be better. And then the next one would be a little minor dual lock or something, a little subdivision, do 3 or 4 of those. And now we're up to, 8 or 10 transactions. When did you do your first 15 townhouses, Harry? You've never built any.
That's it.
That's it. This is 10 years. And he's made $8 million or more than that on the way through.
We've done lots of dual locks. I got excited about dual locks and did a lot of dual locks.
And this is not what Harry would normally do. He does commercial properties. He's more into that right now. So you want to get it really, this is very important you get this, because I don't want, after this meeting, we're all going to go off and do these. This would be
Absolutely
terrible.
not. Absolutely not.
Harry remembers a dark man It came to our program. I think we're only a couple of years into it,
Yeah,
Harry.
it would have been 2003.
And he did an
somewhere.
$18 million development.
That was his first one.
First one. Just did the program, came back 2 weeks later, got this $18 million townhouse development.
He offered it to you and I to be
Exactly.
involved
Would
in.
we want to be involved?
Yeah.
We said, don't do this. And he kept, every month he'd come back, wouldn't he? Or we'd see him every 3 months. We started seeing him a little less because we kept saying no and tried to talk him out of it. It took him 9 years to go bankrupt. But the amount of people he would have dragged down in the process would have been like a lot of people. If you do the numbers on this, 15 units, and they're selling for this kind of retail, you'll get this, that this is a $7.5 million development.
Yeah, somewhere there.
Can you see? And that's a lot of money. $7.5 million. You know, you don't want to be in that when you're starting off. And certainly, I would say, years away.
Yeah.
But the principle.
This happens, and Roy's asked me what's happening at the moment.
This is happening.
That's happening at the moment. However, to answer your question there, Roy and I did one 2005 where we secured a property at $2 million. We sold it for 2.425. We never bought it. That was all under option from one to the other. I did one at about the same time where we secured a property for $510,000, and we did a subdivision, sold 2 blocks of land. One was sold at, I think it was 450 odd, and one at 470 odd. Never bought it. Just secured them under option, did the subdivision, sold the 2 blocks of land, and just sold our option, and someone else entered into contracts. We never entered. They're the sorts of things, and even these aren't your first transaction or your second transaction. These are down the track. You know, so this was 2005. I did
4 years later.
Born Rich in 2001. You know, you get an understanding there of what we're talking about. This one was about the same time that we did it. They're down the track. Once you learn the recipe on some of the smaller transactions, that's really what we're wanting you to do.
Very important lessons there.
Yeah.
And really leads us to the team thing, because we've got these team things here, and doing this. And I'll just answer this question here. Those transactions went to auction, and we were at the auction. I was on the phone. There were people at the auction. And we were going to do these transactions, and Harry was involved in that in the sense of helping us and doing all that. And we put a price, Harry, I think 210, I think was our top bid. You know, it was like 200, but we said, let's put a bit more in. And we were going to put them on the market for about, finished and done up and complete, I think 360, 370, something like that.
Depending which one. There was 4 different ones, so it was about that price.
And we would have spent about, well, in some cases 50 grand, in some cases 25, and that kind of thing. They were all different. These went to auction, and people bought them for more than that as they were. So they could have bought them off us, finished, complete, all new kitchens, bathrooms, painted and fixed with tenants in them. So they paid more than that. One went for over 400,000, and they all sold. And the first bid was 200, and then went 250. 300, like not quite as quick as that, was quick. So we didn't do that. We let them have those. So it's a bit like a game of golf. You don't want to be the highest scorer in the game. So a lot of fish got to go by. That's the way it goes. All right, what else, Harry? And that's obviously a beautiful transaction.
Yep.
Who's learning something? Very good. What else is happening in the marketplace?
We're seeing it just generally with what's going on in the marketplace. We are seeing a lot of stuff like this, however, that you can secure at that price for those that are wanting to get into that market. I've got people sending me stuff all the time, and in particular I'm seeing two at the moment, one in Victoria and one in Queensland, that they're probably, it would be very close to that sort of margin, about 60% of what current bank valuations are at, because they've got to get out. And there's opportunities there in that to actually, I see there opportunities to help people. If someone needs to get out, well, let's help them get out and move on. So there's 2 different ends that are going on at the moment, and you talk to the lenders and they're seeing it all the time. And like I said, only because I was sitting with the bank manager this morning and you're seeing what he's telling me. However, it's there's a lot of that going on in the marketplace at the moment.
Yep. I had a client just this afternoon, and she has, from 2 different divorces, a pile of property. And the last one she's just doing, she said, we're not talking. And I said, and how much is it worth? She says, about 280. And how much is owing? She says, about 280. Yeah. I said, and you want to get this? She said, yep, I think it's got a lot of potential. It's going to have a good rental. And all we've got to do is we've got to spend about $25,000 on it for renovations, and we'll be right. I said, okay. We had a look at her position, and she, because of the divorces and stuff and some arguments, she's lost all her credit cards, and she's now behind payments on her loans. And we did the real calculations on her money, and she's actually probably owing more than her properties are worth. And she wants to get this off this last guy, this last husband, so she can get into more debt, so she can lose more quicker. I said, it's a lot of potential. I said, yes, it's a lot of potential to lose more. So now, only through shock will come change. And I've said to her, I said, you want to go and really look at this situation. You've got $41 in the bank. You've got a job, and you're losing over $20,000 in supporting these properties. And you're supposed to be saving $20,000 in your cash flow and your strategic spending. Where's that? And she said, well, I had a tenant away for 10 weeks. I had the hot water blow up on this one. I had the other, and the list was just going on. So the 20,000 is going in to fixing those problems. This wouldn't be familiar with anyone else at all. So very, very dangerous situation. Now, these are the transactions that will come up. And I said, you've got a right now to actually move through and actually do something with this and get yourself out of this mess. And I said, you just need to be very diligent in how you go about that. And if you don't do it, they will do it for you. And you got about a window of probably less than 3 months to get this act together. And this is the hard decisions. Who's done Life Magic and saw the Bullion Man? Okay, so a few of you. Some of you don't know, but I had the biggest debt person we ever had, Harry, in credit card debt was a pharmacist. She was a chemist, and she ran the pharmacy, and she had $257,000 in credit card debt. Could you imagine getting up in the morning and having 257? Well, this guy turned up at this program with $440,000 worth of credit card debt.
Wow.
And his payments on the credit card debt was $120,000 a year.
Wow.
And understanding he has to earn the money, pay the tax to get that. And that's just interest. That's not paying anything off. Do you think you got any problems? Wasn't it relieving to hear that, Brendan, when you heard that? You felt really good. The whole group. And he was a lovely man, wasn't he? And Fantasia was his wife. And they have no idea where the money was, but they've had a great time. And he had a Harley. Then he owned 2 other properties, both of which were worth more. Sorry, the mortgages were greater than the value of the properties. So he's going bankrupt. Now, the trick was to see if we could get him just to only one of them go, so we have one survivor, or possibly renegotiate the whole thing, and that's what we're in the process of doing. So out there, in the land which he has national bank loans, as every other bank, 27 different credit cards, 27 different banks. He earns $265,000. He's a very clever man. Works for the government under a contract. And he hasn't paid his taxes for 3 years as well, because that's how much he gets on his contract. Can you see how the story gets worse? So when these properties hit the market, and they will, there'll be properties that will be negotiated to purchase at whatever, and we're going to be negotiating with the bank to say this is where he's up to, this is what we can do, and if you want to throw another $5,000 towards his demise, do so, or you can and get nothing, or you might be able to get this. So. In the marketplace, Harry, let's talk about banks. valuations, lending on this,
Yeah.
and real estate agents.
We got an email last week from the aggregator, because we're brokers, so from the aggregator that we lodge our loans with, and it was an article asking brokers to be a little bit more gentle with valuers, because the valuers are getting
beaten up.
They're getting.
They're wearing their crash helmets. They're going out with good. Yeah.
Every time they put a valuation in at the moment, I think they're just people are coming back and just and
they're yelling at them and screaming at them, and you're a dickhead and you can't. I've got a written one here, sworn. They usually say sworn valuation, which is really much bigger than just an ordinary one. This is sworn, but it's about a year ago, something or two or whatever.
Yeah.
So what's causing that is the banks are giving the valuers some very tough measures, because they know these banks are not making $4 billion in profit because they're silly. They're saying real estate in Australia is overvalued, it's overpriced, it's the dearest in the world. The market is going to fall. We want to be protected. We will hold you liable if you do a valuation personally and your company. If you can't sell this property under our instructions within 30 days, 45 days under auction. That's the instruction that all banks give to the valuers. So imagine this site where he's got his valuation, because it was probably valued once at this, 1.5, 4 years ago. Good old days.
Yep.
No docs, low docs, every other doc. Then he said, get a valuation. How much can I get for this site within 30 days, 45 days? Can I get that? Yep, that's the value. Does that make sense? So if you own a house like that, that's probably the value. Does that make sense, everyone? So when a person owns that house and owes, $1 million and trying to get an extra 2 to get the kids through school or something, and puts it to the value, and the value comes back with that, can you imagine how the value gets bashed up? What? You're stupid. I'm paying you good money for the... You imagine the call, the slamming of phones. So the banks are saying, please be nice to the valuers.
Absolutely. The offer we put in today on another property at $650,000, when we first saw that, which was a month ago, 6 weeks ago, we were told there was a valuation on that property at 1.2 mil. I said, oh, that's good. So can we see the valuation? It all started. So then we got from a valuation at 1.2 mil to
a drive-by.
Well, it was an agent that said they might be able to get $1.2 million for this property based on the potential that it had.
Based on the potential?
Yeah.
These words change. That's a drive-by.
Yeah. So then we got to, well, the bank's actually valued it at 850. I said, right. And I said, well, we can't do anything at that. It just doesn't work for us at that level. And then we actually put 2 offers in initially 2 weeks ago. We believe they will take 650, and we always have. There's 2 offers, one at 600 with shorter terms, and one at 650 with bigger terms, longer terms, which is actually the one we wanted. We want the longer terms, and we thought that would be more attractive to them anyway with the $650,000 price tag. Then we had the meeting between us and the agent and the vendor and all that on Skype. Then we got told that they wanted more than 650. And the words were, the vendor's words, he's going, well, no, that 650 is not enough. He said it's got to be, it's got to be more around the 700. It's got to be higher. It's got to be high sixes. I said, hang on. It's got to be, and it's got to be. What's the number that you would take tonight? Oh, 670. I said, okay. So we got the 670. So that's dealt with. So now we're going to need to go back and see if we can make that work. And we'll come back to you and let you know if we can make it work. And the offer's gone back in at 650, and we've given some concessions in other areas to make it work. And what we've done in actual fact is we've actually worked out what the vendor's holding cost is, and again we've asked for a due diligence period at the start of our option. After the due diligence period, we will actually assist with the funding of the holding cost during our option period. However, it comes off the purchase price. It's included in our purchase price at the end of our option. And when we finally got down to it, and at the end of the day, we got told that the difference was going to be $1,300 per month in holding cost. So over a 12-month period, it's $15,000. And for us in this transaction, the numbers are very similar to this. In actual fact, the numbers are better than this one. There's probably closer to $1.5 million in profit in this other transaction. And we're talking about $15,000 over a 12-month period that we can release, which comes off that purchase price. So we gave some concessions there. However, the pricing needs to be where it needs to be to make that work. Because we've got, at the moment, we're being really conservative on the numbers. We want bigger margins than what we normally would, because I don't know what the market's going to do in the next 12 months.
Correct.
And if I did have to say, well, what do you think it'll do? Well, it's either going to be the same or go down. That's it. That's my belief right now.
Best case will be the same as it is.
Yep.
And the real case most probably will be going down. So that's the case. Now, is that true of the whole world, like you're noticing? You know, what does it cost to buy a toaster? You buy one for $9. Could, you know, if you go back 20 years ago, could you buy a toaster for $9? No. 10 years ago? How much was a DVD player 10 years ago? Could you buy one for $39? You can buy one now for $39. And in fact, you can buy one that's so good, it has all the features that the one that was about $1,100 10 years ago. So, you know, everything. Have you noticed? Bunnings, cheaper prices just the beginning. So everything is coming down, and they're expecting you to do more for less. Have you noticed? It's the way of the world, unless you've got a very, very special skill. And real estate is no different. Now, this is a very important thing you guys get, because people have this clinging to the past. And the older you get, the worse that gets. And you start thinking, well, it's just a question of time. Well, how long's it been? How long was 2003 when we got to that peak, you know? When gold got to, you know, $1,925 or something, and in 2 days goes down to $1,700, you know, $200 in 2 days. And is it 1820 or something to 1825 or something like that? I mean, is it an ounce of gold? That's a hint. And that market will fall. So your homes that you've got to get used to the idea they are investment, even though all of the upbringing you've had has been that this is not an investment, this is your home. It's an investment. And you'll notice from my very first session I ever did 40 years ago, I always treated the home as an investment. It's just a piece of material that we live in, and we love it to be our home. It's not just a house, it is our home, and our heart's there. However, we're tenants. And if you can kind of get to that, and I've still got people coming into me, they're wanting to buy an investment and buy a property. It's very hard, Harry. And you tell them that they keep wanting to buy them. Do not buy anything. Particularly things that are going down, particularly things this big. You know, you're better off renting with an option to purchase, or just trade them. And that's what the future really is. Certainly for the next 3-5 years, and I would say for 10. And you really need to get this on, just like the same thing we talked about the other week about your super funds. Take them out of those, get them into cash. I've been saying this year after year after year. Since 2007, you've got to be in cash, not in, and you trade your money. It's a trading market, not a buy and hold market. Is everyone clear about this? Every time we get together, we say the same thing. People are hoping it might change, but it's not, you know, I won't change this record. So, finishing up, Harry, because
yep.
I want to hear from who's learning some things from Harry here. This is really good. So, anything you want to add to the market? I mean, the valuations we've spoken about, they're going to be very severe. The lending's going to be very severe.
The agents are the other ones that are really, they're getting
beaten up.
Yeah, pretty torrid time of it right now. Our agent that introduced us to this, it was pretty much at this point here. So just at the end of our due diligence, she got a little voucher from us that just to go for a massage and go to the day spa for the day and all that sort of stuff, because we want to work with her again. And so as we went in there, and she knows that she's now got her commission and she's getting paid, we just give them another little bonus. And the agents, I was actually at an event in Brisbane about a month ago, and it was a real estate agent's training day, or training 2 days. It was 2 days that they ran it over. I've got to say, at the end of those 2 days, I turned around and I just thought that is just such a tough gig. Like, it's just, you really, to be done. I don't know if we have any agents in the room here, however, it just, I looked at that and I thought, wow, that's a really tough position to be taking in this current market, to be doing that. Those that are successful, I think they're doing a really good job. And my thing with the real estate agency is always that I want to be setting up those relationships with my agents and working with them on an ongoing basis. And the agent that bought us this transaction, and the same with the one that I put that offer in on today, I've been emailing him today, we just want to build that relationship with them. They're going to see a lot more properties than we will ever see. They're seeing them all the time. They're seeing them, the ones that are the good buys, the ones that are wanting top price, the ones that will take the terms. You know, it's just, they know what's out there. So I'd be strongly suggesting that with your agents you really build that relationship. Spend the time and actually just really invest that with them, and sit down and have a cup of coffee with them and go out and look at some property with them, and do it in a way that honours them and their time as well. Because their time is valuable, and you know, certainly as a starting point, just getting into open homes and actually talking to them and just seeing who you gel with. Because there'll be ones that you'll work with a lot better than others. So just really build those relationships with them. It's really, and they're, like I said, at the moment, really a lot of them are getting a pretty torrid time of it. So yeah, I think that's really important right now.
Absolutely. Good job.
Yep.
Let's give Harry a big clap. Thank you, Mr. Harry.
Thank you.